goes down. The pressure is increasing. Vanya Pixie now left alone as a duo to try and clean this one up. There's 6 total players. Looks like Cammy's still on low. Shot gets connected from Pixie onto Frenic. Gets the elimination alongside it. Seti, Cammy now a duo down below. It's a full trio.
Cammy, Hardy, they're all so strong when they play together. But Pixie and Vanya, they're still a big part of this conversation. They still have a couple of maps to play with here. And Pixie waiting for that perfect shot. He's got to be as precise as ever, though. He can't let this one slip. But Seti, Cammy, Hardy, they're not looking to lose another one. They want their victory royale. Vanya gonna manage to jump ahead. Seti trying to run back. Seti won't get away, though. And Vanya, right as we thought that Cammy, Seti, and Hardy might have a chance to close this one out. It is shut down. That dream just slipping away from them.
Vanya said, no heal off for you. Get back to the lobby. Knocks him. Secures the victory royale. This is perfect. As the first place trio went down, the second place trio went down, and Vanya, Pixie, and Marius, with an open road ahead of them, were able to pick up the victory royale to now push themselves closer and closer to that Blade of Champions.
Polish here, but Vanya, Pixie, Marius, what a come up in this game 11. Frankie, 11, Mini, tell me what just happened.
I will forever associate multiple victory royales with Vanya in major finals. This one is no different. 11. Poor Cammy and Seti just having another one stolen from under their very noses. But let's not dwell on that, 11. Let's not dwell on that. Let's just big up the fact that Marius, Pixie, and Vanya are almost certainly going to global championships now, and they're proving why they are one of Europe's brightest hopes.
Yeah, one spot away last major. This major looks like they've got that job done, but the job is not finished for this team, because I think this is it. This is the contender. This is the team that really stands in the way of Pablo, Fredoxy, and Chino. If there's anybody that's gonna beat them and stop them here in game 12, it's most likely gonna have to be these guys now, Minnie.
Yeah, and the way they play this endgame was really nice as well. They had to pick up the revive onto Vanya, which of course this refresh gave them the green light to take height there in the end as well. They were just playing height just underneath Vico and Veno's trio there up on top, and they just took it really, really straightforwardly. And from here on out, it only looked like it was going one way, right up until the end, when of course we had to say Cammy and Hari right on the low ground. And to be honest, with the way that Seti, Cammy, and Hari have been playing these final two trio situations, I was kind of confident in Vanya, but the way he did it was unreal there.
Yeah, I mean, the clutch shots onto Seti as he ran away.
Yeah.
I mean, Seti's going to regret building up on that ramp and running. Like, he's going to be wishing he would have hidden maybe a bit more. Losing another 2v situation is just crazy. But look, focus on Vanya, right? Because Vanya and Pixie, you know, remember in the group stage when we were talking about these guys, I highlighted the fact that last major, when it came to final 2 situations, they stunk, right? Like, they had like 10 final 2 situations, I think, in set lobbies, and won only like 1 of them. This season, they've been much better when it comes to converting in those scenarios, and that's a perfect display of that. Very impressed by this trio right now.
Listen, boys, we need to talk some more. We just have one more game. Major to champions. We're going to be taking a look at the leaderboard after the break.
supposed to go. Proceed on the low, can't lose it from it, go. Leave me in the zone, I take your mind and then I smash your soul. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Run up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known. I get it, they love my whole aesthetic. Fake out and listen, told you this ain't hypothetical. Answer the call, prove this once and for all. Can't wish me when they never summer nights, I never fall. No cattle, don't know where it's at 'em. Go riders off my body, cut 'em off, they yucky slots. Already, I'm consuming petty. The vision's 2020, believe your eyes winning. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Run up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known. It's a rap, got the match built like a pro. You know the next road, harder than adios. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Run up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known. The track going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Run up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known.
Hollywood ain't got nothing on SMCS Europe, my friends, because we have just got one more game before we crack. Is looking incredibly close at the top. Let's bring up the leaderboard, guys, and see where we're at with just one game remaining. Vanya, Pixie, and Marius Levin, they are, I mean, they're not looking good to take it just yet because there's just 6 points between them and second. But the consistency they've showed today, the ability to pick up those victory royales, makes me think they must be confident.
This is gonna be a cook of a game 12, man. This is what you want. You want the close photo finish, Mini. And we're gonna get that here because Vanya, Pixie, and Marius have catapulted their way into it. Look, both these teams have been fantastic this weekend. Both these teams have so much on the line. The only winner, or the only player who's won an FNCS on either of these teams is Vanya, right? Pixie looking to pick up his first. Marius looking to become the first Danish player to do it, right? So a big weekend for Danish Fortnite. I don't even know who I think is going to do it, to be honest with you. Because both of these teams have been so good at making it to these endgames consistently.
Yeah, and I think what I will say is that whoever does end up winning this will definitely deserve it on their performance this weekend. You can see with their elimination stats, their placement points as well, they're so close to each other, and the consistency that we've seen from particularly Fred Oxy's team has been next level this entire weekend. So although they don't have the experience necessarily, they don't have the experience of being in this position, this is going to be coming down to a very, very close finish, and you have to say whoever does take it will fully deserve it.
Yeah, and when you look at this team in particular, it's such an interesting story for them, right? When you look at all three of these players and the trajectories they've been on, it's been so strange almost, right? You look at Pablo Wingu. Pablo Wingu's been around in EU competitive for a long time. You know, back in 2021, right? Pablo Wingu was popping about. Obviously, he went to the Invitational in 2022, and that was really when I think a lot of people thought this guy is going to be one of the top players for a long time in EU. And it didn't quite pan out from them, right? You know, a lot of people thought Pablo and Bebies had hit their peak. You look at Fredoxy when he burst onto the scene, very talented Danish player. Everyone thought, okay, right, he's going to make that level, make that jump to the tier 1. And even though he's been one of the best most players and everybody respects him there, he never quite, again, put himself in that category. And he just last season didn't even make the major finals, right? And then you look at Chino, the young talent coming in. He's had a great sort of, you know, last year and a half. And he's finally found the formula, playing alongside two people he respects a lot. I know him and Pablo have been friends for a long time and they've always wanted to play with each other. This is the first season they've had that opportunity. And boy, if this is what you get for playing with your friends, I think I would have played with my friends all the time in FNCS, right? That's exactly what he'll be thinking in his head now. So a big last game, a lot of pressure on all these guys because competing for a title in that final game is no joke.
The devil's advocate in me wants to say that these guys have been gifted Masked Meadows for free, and maybe if they weren't, there would be a different team in that top 2 right now. However, Fridoxi's trio have been showing that they are one of the strongest off-born teams. They have earned Masked Meadows for themselves throughout this season, not just this weekend, Mini Miner. Do you think that actually, even if they did have a team dropping against them, they would still be there?
Yeah, definitely. I think it happened in game number 2, right, of this weekend. They had a team sort of like contesting and rotating in nearby. So they definitely have what it takes. They rolled Vico, Veno, Flixi when they contested them in week 4 divisional finals. They have that confidence. Every single aspect of their game right now is looking really, really good. And yeah, you know, they had a really good POI, uncontested vault, black market, all that sort of stuff. But you have to do what you need to do with that loot. You can't just win an FNCS from just getting good loot. You have to make the most of it. And that's what they're doing.
Well, guys, we're not just talking about number 1 here. We're talking about that top 7. We already know that 2 of the trios inside the top 7 have qualified for the Fortnite Global Championships in September. Because where are legends made? On LAN. Every single one of those trios wants to make it to Leon. We're going to find out who'll book their spot after this game.
Thomas isn't in the top 7. Tayson isn't in the top 7. Pink isn't in the top 7. There's so many of these trios that are not yet in qualifying range for the global championship. The desk set the scene perfectly. First and second place, head to head. Only one player on both trios has won an FNCS. This could be huge for any of these players. Talking this last game is going to be simple.
Yeah, the top 10 in general looking really close, and we'll see who comes down with the Blade of Champions in Game 12.
It really all comes down to this. There's a few things we gotta, think. Flooded Frogs, Masked Meadows. This is where our number 1 and number 2 trios have been landing. Vanya's trio and Flooded, Fridoxi's trio and Masked Meadows. They've been uncontested throughout the day going into this last match. Will it stay like that? We had Vico, Veno, and Flixi who were contesting. Well, I'm just making sure we're good. Okay, it seems like they are uncontested. Like I was saying, Vico, Veno, Flixi have been contesting. Malabuka down at Lone Wolf, so it seems for now at least one of our top trios are good to continue with how they've been playing out today.
Undisturbed off-spawn scenes, but that is not the case for Veno and Vico. They've got to come up huge here because they've already lost Flixi along the way. They're ready to have their outcome determined so early on. It's part of the process, but for Doxy, Chino, under some heavy pressure, Vidil, Savage, and Reason trying to roll through, pay them a visit after what went south for Mr. Savage in Game 11. Giving them a taste of their own medicine here. And Pablo, Chino, they're going to be forced to just lurk nearby and pray that Vidil doesn't decide to commit any further with the rest of his team. But Vidil, he's after more.
Out the air. Fridoxi gets knocked down. They are going to be forced to fight this out. Has Vidil seen him? He has not. Pablo in a very sneaky situation. He could be able to pick one off here. He needs to connect this shot. Everything comes down to this. If they get eliminated here, they are most likely out of that contention for first place. They cannot afford to go down.
Actually really respect that reservation from Pablo not to fire. He was waiting until he had eyes on all 3 members from Reason's trio. But Chino, on the other hand, he manages to find Upple. He was sat hiding in a bush. And that could be a huge benefit for his escape methods here. Upple was trying to chase Chino, it appears. Spotted out the fact that he was in a contentious situation. But that is going to allow for Chino and Pablo to get out.
That was insane, by the way. I mean, he thought that, okay, Thomas HD, Panzer Upple, they're in their surrounding range. If they see me fighting off spawn, they're most likely gonna, close on in, look for a third party. Potential outcome, and picked up an elimination from that. As now they are just doing what they can to survive.
Just gotta get the reboot off, but basically just a huge audio key to all teams in the surrounding areas. Fridoxi will rejoin Pablo and Chino. And when you factor in that Chino did find that elimination, it's a little bit of surge damage. It's not as much as they would obviously want, but this will at least give them the opportunity to farm up a bit and then try to see if they can establish their dominance elsewhere on the map.
6 points is what separates Pablo, Chino, and Ferdoxy from Vanya, Pixie, and Marius. Vanya, Pixie, Marius had a cleaner start without getting knocked off the start. It's a full Danish trio. I mean, Denmark has made 243 FNCS finals, but they are yet to take home a championship. Venno, Vico, Flixie, or should I say just Venno and Vico, are in third place still, but it's going to be tough to take home the second or first.
And that top 3 position is also a little bit too close for comfort. If you're one of our 2 leading teams, you've got a little bit more of a point gap between second and third, but third through 7, all of that is within striking range of each other. And there's definitely some prize pool differences involved. When you are Vico, Venno, and Flixie, though, you know that you've got your guaranteed seat to the Global Championship. You did that in Major 1 finals, but they obviously still want to be as high up on that leaderboard as possible.
And for the trios that haven't yet qualified, you know, to the in, right? Being so close right now, you have to put on a performance in this match. I'm trying to think if it's possible for... No, I don't think Malabuga can get booped out of the top 7, so it will still be that to qualify, but it is incredibly close in that top 10 in general. A lot of big names still not in qualifying range for the Global Championship, but although Pablo, Ferdoxy, and Chino had a bit of a hiccup to start this one off, they're looking better.
Pablo, Chino, and Ferdoxy, the biggest issue is they lost control of Mass Meadows after taking that early spill. So they're going to have to try and fight their way back into that POI. Other teams taking full advantage, though, of what's been left over, what was never gathered in the first place, since they didn't have the time to do so because of Reason's team. Mustache, Queasy, and Swizzy, though, coming out of Seaport, can never count these guys out either. They are nestled into that 5th place spot, heading into this final lobby, Takata, but they could still come up with a crazy game in the final hour.
I mean, in last major, they didn't qualify for the Global Championship by 2 spots. They were just 2 spots away, right under Vanya, Marius, and Pixie to qualify to the Global Championship. Although they were looking like favorites, ended up getting contested, and now uncontested. They're in qualifying range, but, you know, they're getting close to that borderline, so they still have to have quite a performance. I mean, if you're Vanya, Pixie, and Marius, you're in first place here, but you want to get that Blade of Champions. You want to win that FNCS. Vanya has already claimed a few, but Pixie and Marius, they have yet to win one.
But see, Vanya knows what kind of nerves start to factor in when you are this close to winning. And for Marius and Pixie, it is so easy to just start feeling that little bit of hesitation. You second guess every single one of your moves. And so this is where Vanya can really step up to the plate, really be a huge leader, and control the nerves of this trio, because Ferdoxy, Chino, Pablo, they're also experiencing probably a similar sensation. This is something that would just really change the narrative surrounding all 3 of these players.
It's almost worse for Ferdoxy, Pablo, and Chino, though, because they're kind of, like you said, playing a little different of an early game because they don't have control of Mass Meadows and now forced to kind of not be as comfortable. They were the ones sneaking around looking for those eliminations in these previous games. It's how they were getting a lot of the surge, but now kind of all eyes are on them. These opponents know where they are. They don't have as many options to sneak up on them again, and it's making it a lot more difficult for them in this last match.
But they're drawing that other team so far southwest, likely because if they are going to have to fight, if you are going to have a team pursuing you for that long, you want to make sure it's as isolated as possible so you don't risk the third-party endeavor. Definitely seemed to be the intent for Ferdoxy's team, but for sure an uphill battle that they're still trying to scale. Hari, Seti, Cammy inside of brutal boxcars. looking for their surge damage wherever applicable. This is still a 180 performance in comparison to how Major 1 Finals ended up for this trio. They're here to remind all of EU that they are still top dogs of the region.
It's good to see them. It's good to see them in that top 7 in qualifying range, like you mentioned. Their major finals performances haven't been looking too hot recently. But you know, they got uncontested, and now once again, part of those target teams. What I'm seeing here, it was Vanya, Marius, and Pixie, and the players that were potentially looking like aggressors was Vico and Venom, so that is not kind of what to fight against. For Doxy, Pablo, and Chino now, though, kind of just getting bullied from above. Their truck's about to explode. They're forced to take low elevation, and now just 2 builds is all that Pablo has. They are quite literally playing this match in shambles.
They have to take this fight now with Chap, but Chap, he might have been a little bit overzealous here. Jumps right into the trap that Frodoxy's team had set for him. He's so incredibly low on HP. Pablo needs to find the closing shot. V has now rolled into the location. Canyon crossing, heating up in the span of seconds here. But Pablo, he's got no builds. He just has to find the eliminations. He needs the siphon materials, whatever they can find in these final moments. They don't want it to be their last. The nerves have got to Kata, but Pablo, Frodoxy, Chino, they're still holding it.
You saw on the minimap, a full other trio is coming in for the third party, and they knocked down Frodoxy. This is the worst outcome from this fight. They did the damage, but they weren't able to close it out. Frodoxy's been fully eliminated. Pablo, Chino now left as a duo. The good news is it looks like those third-party players have disengaged. They're happy with that one elimination. And now Pablo and Chino have to decide. They don't really have materials to get away. They have to play it slow. They already lost one of their teammates, but they know they did a good amount of damage. As they're most likely just going to continue in shambles here.
Pablo will manage to pick up some leftover body loot. Matt's a long way for him right now. But they definitely do not want to overexpose themselves. They're willing to wait it out. He has 2 med miss grenades. They can definitely tank a little bit of storm. All they need is for these 2 other teams to leave the area, and then they can begin trying to recoup what they've lost. It's certainly a big blow. It's got to be something that Vanya, Medius, and Pixie are keeping eyes out for in that elimination feed. But Chino and Pablo, they just have to focus on their own game. They don't have time to think about anything else. And Yanis is going to be the one who actually takes out Frodoxy. Strokey still trying to think.
You know Vanya's trio was licking their lips when they saw on the elim feed that Frodoxy went down.
Have to be.
But the good news is, hey, Pablo, Chino are still up. They're not in a good situation at all, but hey, they're on their feet, so still possible. They're in the zone too. It's not pulling incredibly far, but it's definitely gonna have to be a turnaround if they want to get a big game from this. Meanwhile, we look at Vanya, Pixie, and Marius. They're just going with the flow, same as the previous matches.
But they're alive and well. They're not just alive, like what we saw from Pablo. And even with Canyon Crossing having cleared out a little bit, they still have to invest so much time just refarming mats, refarming heals. Pixie, Vanya, and Marius, on the other hand, though, max material, optimal loadouts, for the most part, to carry them through these mid-game rotates, and wasting no time whatsoever at Foxy Floodgate. They're taking over. A little bit of elevation on the mountain range. Got Cammy in their sights, but not fully committing one way or the other. They're gonna sit around and wait, see who actually comes their way.
Thomas HD, from not qualifying to the finals to now being in that contention, the fight for top 7 and a spot at the Global Championship, currently being in 9th place, so they are not in qualifying range, meaning they need a solid match here. You kind of got to hope that the trios above them don't perform too well.
This is just so big, though, for Panzer and Uppel especially, because Panzer and Uppel took in the last major to take a chance on each other and Thomas and see, is this going to be a winning trio? Are we going to be the Blade of Champions caliber that individually everyone would look at them and say, yeah, they've got the potential, but to find themselves just outside of that Global Championship qualifying range even, it would be devastating if they can't outperform where they were last season.
And I love seeing Demus, Pix, and Darm here picking up eliminations. I mean, yesterday, they only made top 15 in 2 out of the 6 matches. And today, they're looking almost as consistent as Malabuka was in day 1. They've made top 6 every single game today. I mean, talk about a comeback. They weren't even very close to qualifying range of the Global Championship, and now they're sat comfortably in 6th place. So all they have to do is have a decent performance here, and they can go from qualifying to their first ever major finals in Major 1 to now in Major 2 qualifying themselves for the Global Championship.
Triple foot though for Vico and Venom, still without Flixie. And Crime City has got company that they're not looking for with iDrop's team. But iDrop, he's really got to be careful here. Scroll just falling a little bit too low. Vico trying to see if he can close things out. But oh wait, just a couple moments longer. Vico and Veno have yet to find their first elimination in comparison to the Danes carrying 8 of them. But Sky, man, the moment that he fixates, he just has to worry about the team approaching from behind, and it's Malabuka's team of all trios that they're now trying to contend with. And what looked like a promising collapse has now completely been turned on their heads. Malabuka's trio, they are out from iDrop's team here, and they've already got iDrop. Just waiting to see if they can get the other 2. Probably aware of the fact that the double revive's going off. They're just looking for a pre-headed play onto Veno, and Malabuka opening the doorway. Veno gonna be eliminated. You just know that Malabuka's gotta be cheesing right now. And it's only Vico left standing. Sky and Scroll, they are going to opt to go the other direction. And Malabuka more than happy to just keep trying to hunt out where Vico's located.
There'll be a smile on their face. The trio that turned their tournament upside down, now eliminating them in the last match. They are the trio that is directly above them on the leaderboard as well. After those eliminations, they've taken the spot from them, pushed themselves into 3rd place. And with Vico left alone, he has to pray that they don't find him here.
Vico has 1 bandage, and he is running on fumes. Even with surviving all of that mayhem, it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be able to convert that. Real tough scenes for Veno. But Vico's gonna do what he can.
Now, I'd love to see Fredoxy, Chino, and Pablo back in game. Levin set it up perfectly, but I want to reiterate, I mean, Fredoxy wasn't even able to make the major finals last season. Not a single player on this trio has won an FNCS. Pablo Wingu, sorry, longtime competitor in the Fortnite space, alongside that kind of young talent, Chino. Fredoxy has been around for a good amount of time as well, but they haven't kind of had the respect to win a whole major. You know, they'll be on these lists, but they're not going to be the clear winners. So seeing them ahead now in this rough last game, it would be amazing for them to clutch it out. As it looks like Vico's gone down, but he's brought Flixie back into the game, so, you know, they're doing what they can to stay out.
The reboots onto Venom and Flixie, sure, but they are so far out in Storm. Even if they somehow manage to get into the next zone, Takata, they are going to be threatened by that Storm sickness, I would imagine. And I think the only thing that they're worried about right now, though, is just trying to get as many placement points as possible. I'm not sold that they're going to be able to bring back Vico anytime soon, but Proxy, Chino, Pablo, they might have all been able to make it out of Canyon Crossing. The issue is that they're coming out of the tunnel, and there were teams sat waiting, looking to prey upon anyone that might have been straggling behind, and while they will get the double revive off onto Prodoxy, just, again, another team that is likely going to encounter some storm sickness issues, and that could definitely impact the way that they rotate in the late game.
That med mist has been a lifesaver, though. They will be able to make it back in, but that's just the start here. They're not in the best position. I mean, they are on a good uncongested side, but there is that trio right directly above them. They have done enough damage, but now they are incredibly low on spare shields. Only a couple minis for Chino. I think it was for Doxy, didn't even have any in his loadout.
They're just trying to avoid all fights. They have zero interest in an engagement just yet. Maybe they can turn around and spray a team that might be potentially more chalk than them, but it's going to be tough. Vanya, though, is the last thing you want to see when you are only 6 points ahead on the leaderboard. But Vanya just barely going to be able to reunite with this trio. Water sprites, every form of a healing resource, not going to be dropped. Gotta make sure that Vanya is healthy enough to fight if need be. But scary scenes. You can almost feel your heart stop for them, but Pixie, Marias, Vanya, they definitely got materials. But it is very difficult because the zone has pulled deep into Mass Meadows. And Pixie's just trying to get an overview